Dodge my punch, I'll bow, Tyler Brooks screamed, slamming 68-year-old janitor Martin Irving against the gym wall. Champion's Den went dead silent. 25 fighters stopped training as Tyler exploded over Martin, accidentally bumping his water bottle. "You think you can disrespect me?" Tyler's spit flew in the black janitor's face. "I'm a pro boxer! You're nothing!" He shoved Martin so hard the cleaning cart crashed over. Phones started recording what looked like a one-shot knockout waiting to happen. "One punch, old man," Tyler announced, flexing for the cameras. "If you dodge my haymaker, I'll bow down. When I connect, you'll learn your place." Martin slowly straightened, something deadly flickering in his weathered eyes. "I accept," he said quietly. Nobody knew they were about to witness the most shocking 30 seconds in boxing history. But could a 68-year-old janitor really dodge a pro's haymaker? Or was this the end of the line? Martin Irving had survived 3 years of this hell. Every morning at 5:30, he arrived before the fighters stumbled through Champion's Den's doors. At 68, his movements were precise. No wasted motion as he cleaned equipment these young warriors destroyed without thought. To most fighters, Martin was invisible, moving furniture. But Tyler Brooks had made Martin his personal punching bag. The first cut. It started with Tyler accidentally kicking over Martin's mop bucket during peak hours. Dirty water spread across the floor like spilled blood. 20 fighters watched. Nobody helped Martin clean up. "Oops," Tyler smirked. "Guess you'll have to start over, Pops." Martin knelt, wringing out his mop in silence. But something flickered behind his eyes. Not submission. Recognition. Like he'd seen this dance before. The second strike. Weeks later, Tyler escalated. He grabbed Martin's cleaning cart, dumping supplies everywhere during Amanda's live stream. "Content, baby!" Tyler laughed for the camera. "Watch how the help scrambles!" Martin picked up each item methodically. His breathing stayed controlled, in, out, the rhythm of someone who'd learned patience under pressure, real pressure. Jake Sullivan clenched his fists, whispering to Danny, "This ain't right." Yet no one swung back, not yet. The breaking point last month brought Tyler's cruelest performance. He cornered Martin in the equipment room, blocking the exit. "You know what your problem is, old man?" Tyler's voice dripped venom. "You think you matter. You think cleaning up after real athletes makes you important." Martin's hands stayed steady on his supplies, but Eddie Thompson, watching from the doorway, caught something others missed, the way Martin's feet positioned themselves. Balanced. Ready. "Some people are born to serve," Tyler continued. "Others are born to dominate. Guess which one you are?" Martin said nothing, but his shoulders squared almost imperceptibly. For just a moment, 3 years of careful invisibility cracked. The Watchers. The gym developed patterns around Tyler's cruelty. Fighters dodged his abuse like they dodged punches, timing workouts, slipping out for water breaks. The silence ate at them. Sarah Martinez tried subtle interventions, thanking Martin publicly, positioning herself between predator and prey. But Tyler's status as Frank Wilson's golden boy created an invisible shield. "He brings sponsors," Frank explained when Sarah finally confronted him. We can't afford this," Sarah shot back. But Frank had already walked away. The hidden truth. Martin absorbed every insult, every shove, every calculated humiliation. His calm wasn't weakness, it was discipline earned through wars these kids couldn't imagine. In quiet moments, when the gym emptied, Martin's true nature leaked through. His footwork around heavy bags followed patterns too fluid for a janitor. His breathing matched rhythms of someone who'd controlled heart rate under real fire. Once organizing gloves, Martin unconsciously tested their weight and balance with professional precision. Eddie caught it. The way his hands moved like they'd worn championship leather. Arthritis bit like winter wind, Martin thought, wringing his mop. But muscle memory never died. The economics of cruelty. Frank's math was brutal but simple. Tyler generated revenue through fights, partnerships, social media buzz. Martin was overhead, easily replaced, barely tolerated, but Frank missed the hidden cost. Each day of unchecked cruelty poisoned the gym's soul. Young fighters learned that power meant preying on weakness. That respect was earned through intimidation. The culture rotted from the head down. The pressure builds. Tyler's girlfriend Amanda amplified everything. Her phone captured each humiliation for viral content. Martin's dignity became engagement metrics. You see how he just takes it? Tyler performed for her camera. Some people know their place. But Amanda missed the subtle changes in Martin's demeanor. The straightening spine, the controlled breathing, the way his eyes tracked movement with predatory precision. Eddie's recognition. Eddie Thompson had trained champions for 40 years. He recognized dangerous men the way sailors recognize storms, by instinct, by experience, by survival. Something about Martin's movement patterns nagged at him. The precise footwork, the economy of motion, the way he carried himself when he thought nobody watched. "That man moves like he knows something," Eddie muttered, studying Martin's shadowboxing while cleaning, like he's done this before. The breaking point approaches. Winter mornings were hardest. Arthritis flared, making simple tasks exercises in hidden pain, but Martin never complained, never showed weakness Tyler could exploit. His silence became a mirror reflecting everyone's moral courage. Each day of unchecked abuse tested character most failed by looking away. The pressure built like steam in a boiler. Something had to give. The storm beneath Martin's calm hit a hurricane. 3 years of swallowed pride, accumulated rage, and professional discipline compressed into explosive potential. He'd been invisible by choice, protecting secrets that could shatter assumptions, but invisibility had limits. Even iron rusted under constant assault. Eddie caught glimpses, footwork too slick for a janitor, breathing patterns of a fighter, hands that remembered championship leather. What secrets was this old man burying? And what would happen when Tyler finally dug too deep? The answer was coming. Tonight. Tuesday evening brought Champion's Den's most chaotic hour. 28 fighters pushed limits, heavy bags thundered, and testosterone thickened the air like smoke. Tyler Brooks owned center stage like a king holding court. Amanda perched nearby with her phone ready. Jake and Danny flanked him like bodyguards. Newer fighters orbited his presence, desperate for scraps of attention. This was Tyler's kingdom. His moment to shine while others struggled in shadows. Martin emerged from storage, methodically pushing his cart toward the water fountain. His timing was precise, predictable, exactly what Tyler had been hunting for. "Hold up right there, Pops!" Tyler's voice cut through gym noise like a blade. Every conversation died. Training rhythms stumbled. All eyes turned toward the brewing storm. Tyler stepped into Martin's path, muscles rippling, blocking any escape. He puffed his chest like a street brawler claiming territory. "We're conducting real business here," Tyler announced, volume calculated to reach every corner. "Athletes discussing actual training, not time for your cleaning show." Martin stopped, grip steady on his cart handle. The gym's energy shifted. Conversations became whispers. Workouts slowed as attention drifted toward Tyler's latest performance. "I need to clean the fountain area," Martin replied simply, professional despite obvious provocation. Tyler moved closer, invading personal space with deliberate intimidation. Height difference was brutal, age gap obvious, power dynamic crystal clear to everyone watching. "See, that's the issue, Pops. You think your mop schedule trumps real sweat?" Tyler's voice climbed with each word. "This gym's my ring, not your playground." Amanda's phone was already rolling, excitement radiating as she sensed viral gold materializing. Other members reluctantly pulled out devices, uncertain whether they were documenting or protecting themselves. "Ladies and gentlemen," Tyler spun to address his growing audience with theatrical flair. "Perfect example of what's wrong today. No respect for hierarchy, no understanding of natural order." Nervous chuckles rippled through the crowd, but most faces showed discomfort. This crossed lines even Tyler's loyalists found hard to justify. Sarah Martinez stopped her workout entirely, expression darkening with disgust. Eddie Thompson moved closer, experienced eyes reading the situation's dangerous trajectory with alarm. Martin remained silent, breathing steady despite public scrutiny and mounting humiliation. His hands stayed relaxed, but his feet shifted almost imperceptibly into balanced stance, detail noticed only by Eddie. "You know what happened here?" Tyler asked, circling Martin like a predator with wounded prey. "Our maintenance staff got too comfortable, too familiar, too confident about his food chain position." The crowd grew as word spread through social networks. Fighters abandoned training to witness Tyler's latest display, drawn by violence's magnetic pull and social media drama. Tyler jabbed his finger toward Martin's chest. Maybe someone needs reminding about respect, about knowing your role, about understanding that some people lead while others serve. Amanda zoomed in on Martin's face, hoping to capture his exact breaking moment. Her followers demanded authentic content, real emotion, genuine conflict. This elderly janitor's humiliation would provide weeks of engagement. "I apologize if I've inconvenienced anyone," Martin replied, voice carrying clearly despite low volume. "I'm simply doing my job." Tyler's laugh was harsh, ugly, broken glass cutting through tension. "Your job is whatever I say it is, old man. My gym during my training hours. Right now, you're in my way." Economic reality was impossible to ignore. Tyler generated revenue through fights, partnerships, social media presence attracting younger fighters. Martin represented overhead costs, easily replaced labor, barely tolerated liability. "Here's what's happening," Tyler announced, positioning himself directly in front of Martin while ensuring optimal camera angles. "I'm giving you education about respect, about understanding your world position." He moved even closer, close enough that Martin had to look up to meet his eyes. Intimidation was obvious, calculated, designed to shatter whatever remaining dignity Martin possessed. Tyler cracked his knuckles, rolled his shoulders. "I'm throwing one punch, just one. All you do is dodge it. Simple enough for someone your age, right?" The proposition hung like a challenge in an old western. The gym went silent except for ventilation hums and distant traffic. "If you move fast enough to avoid getting hit," Tyler continued, playing to his audience with practiced showmanship, "I bow down right here and apologize for disrespecting you." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. This had moved beyond simple hazing into something darker, more dangerous, but still, nobody spoke up. Nobody intervened. Nobody challenged Tyler's escalating cruelty. Martin studied Tyler's face for a long moment, dark eyes unreadable as he processed the challenge and implications. Silence stretched endlessly, building tension that made everyone hold breath. "And if I can't dodge it?" Martin asked quietly. Tyler's grin was predatory, triumphant, already savoring victory. "Then you get on your knees and apologize to everyone for getting in our way. You admit you don't belong in the same space as real fighters. You promise to stay invisible during peak hours." Complete humiliation, physical defeat followed by psychological surrender, all captured for social media immortality. "Come on, Martin," Jake called out, trying to inject levity. "Just dodge it. How hard can it be?" Tyler whirled on his training partner with explosive fury. "How hard can it be? You questioning my speed, Jake? My accuracy? Maybe you want to test those theories?" Jake held up hands in immediate surrender, stepping back from Tyler's anger. The message was clear. Anyone questioning Tyler's dominance might become his next target. Martin set cleaning supplies aside with careful deliberation, movements calm despite mounting pressure. Something shifted in his posture, subtle but significant enough to make Eddie Thompson lean forward with sudden interest. Tyler bounced on his toes, shadowboxing for the crowd. His combinations whistled through air with impressive speed, footwork displaying technical precision of 15 years training. "See that power?" Tyler called to his audience. "See that speed? This is professional training versus whatever this is." He gestured dismissively at Martin, letting the insult hang unfinished. The crowd formed a perfect circle now, phones positioned at every angle. Live streams broadcast to hundreds of remote viewers. Comments flooded in, predictions, encouragement for Tyler, occasional voices of concern about the obvious mismatch. "One punch," Martin said quietly, his voice carrying surprising authority that cut through Tyler's performance. "And if I dodge it, you apologize publicly." Tyler's confidence blazed brighter. "That's right, Pops. One punch. But when I connect, and I will connect, you're learning hard truths about respect." Martin's eyes flickered, like a predator spotting prey. "I accept," he said. The gym froze. What the hell just happened? Martin stepped away from his cart, moving towards center space with deliberate precision. The crowd formed a rough circle, phones positioned for optimal angles, faces tense with anticipation. "Wait!" Amanda called out, adjusting her camera. "What exactly happens when you knock him down?" Tyler turned toward her phone with practiced showmanship. "When I connect, not if, when." Martin gets on his knees and apologizes to everyone here. He admits he doesn't belong in the same space as real fighters. "And if he dodges it?" asked Sarah Martinez, disgust evident in her voice. Tyler laughed confidently. Then I bowed down and apologized, but that's not happening. I've been training 15 years. My jab clocks 43 miles per hour. Frank Wilson emerged from his office, surveying the scene with calculating eyes. Tyler brought revenue. Martin represented costs. The economics were simple. This is really happening? Eddie Thompson muttered. In my day, you didn't challenge old-timers without knowing their history. What history? Jake asked. He's the janitor. Eddie's eyes stayed fixed on Martin's stance. Maybe, maybe not. You know what? Tyler announced, inspiration striking. Let's make this official. Everyone's recording anyway. When I win, Martin apologizes on camera. Goes viral. The world sees what happens when you disrespect fighters. Martin's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, the first crack in his composure. Social media humiliation added modern cruelty to ancient power dynamics. But if you somehow dodge my punch, Tyler continued, I'll get on both knees and admit I was wrong about you, in front of everyone, on camera. The stakes were crystal clear. Public humiliation for the loser, broadcast to millions through social media. This transcended gym confrontation. This was content creation with real human consequences. One chance, Martin said quietly. That's all you get. Tyler bounced with nervous energy. One chance is all I need. I've been fighting since I was 10. You've been mopping floors. Tyler's preparation became theatrical, rolling shoulders, cracking knuckles, throwing practice combinations to demonstrate speed and power, each movement calculated to intimidate. Actually, Tyler added with sudden inspiration, let's do this properly. I need 30 minutes to finish my workout and warm up properly. Then we settle this like professionals. The delay created perfect anticipation. Stakes established, audience committed to staying for resolution. Conversations erupted with predictions and side bets. Most favored Tyler heavily, but old-timers like Eddie remained conspicuously silent. Martin nodded agreement, then returned to his cleaning cart. Instead of leaving as expected, he remained, continuing routine maintenance as if nothing unusual had been arranged. His calm acceptance only added to the surreal atmosphere. 30 minutes, Tyler called out, resuming training with extra intensity for his audience. Then everyone sees what real boxing looks like. Bets flew immediately. $20 Tyler misses? Danny laughed. Nah, this old man's toast. 50 says it's over in one shot, Jake added, pulling out his wallet. Easy money, Amanda chimed in, already calculating social media profits. But Eddie smirked, shaking his weathered head. Fools, you don't bet against ghosts. The comment sent confused looks rippling through the crowd, but Eddie offered no explanation. Word spread through social networks, texts and calls bringing friends who didn't want to miss the spectacle. The audience grew as anticipation built toward what promised to be either spectacular knockout or disturbing assault. Amanda positioned herself strategically, already composing social media captions. This was authentic, unscripted drama that built massive followings. Real conflict with genuine stakes and potentially life-changing consequences. Martin continued methodical work, movements unchanged, breathing steady. But close observers might notice subtle energy shifts, not anxiety, but focused preparation of someone entering a familiar arena after a long absence. The waiting period transformed the gym's energy completely. Normal training rhythms dissolved as fighters abandoned routines to discuss the upcoming confrontation. Some researched Tyler's fighting record on phones, others debated whether the old janitor had any survival chance. Frank Wilson watched from his office doorway, torn between stopping the spectacle and letting it play out. Tyler's value to the gym warred with his conscience, but economics usually won those battles. Eddie Thompson positioned himself closer to the action, his experienced eyes never leaving Martin's subtle preparations. Something about the old man's movements triggered memories he couldn't quite place. The clock became everyone's focus. Gym members checked phones constantly, counting down minutes until the inevitable confrontation. 28 minutes, 27, 26. The tension built like pressure in a boiler. Everyone felt it. The electric anticipation of impending violence, the social media gold about to be mined, the life-changing moments approaching for both men. Tyler continued his elaborate warm-up, playing to the growing crowd while building his own confidence. Each punch he threw into empty air was meant to intimidate, to reinforce the narrative of inevitable domination. But Martin Irving just kept cleaning, his calm becoming more unsettling with each passing minute. The clock ticked, 29 minutes, and counting. Martin Irving's hands moved automatically across gym equipment, muscle memory guiding routine while his mind drifted to memories usually kept locked away. The loss. 3 years back, Sarah's hand went cold in his. 42 years gone to cancer's thief. The smell of hospital bleach still haunted him. Machines beeping their mechanical death songs, bills that buried him alive, deeper than any grave. "I'm proud of the man you became," she'd whispered, not knowing bankruptcy papers sat in their kitchen drawer. The medical bills had arrived like an avalanche. Each envelope contained numbers that made his heart race with panic. Experimental treatments, specialist consultations, medications that cost more than most people's monthly rent. But Martin had mortgaged their house, emptied retirement accounts, borrowed against his life insurance. He'd have sold his soul to give Sarah one more day. Some burdens were meant to be carried alone. The fall iron Martin Irving, 3-time regional heavyweight champion. The name once opened doors, commanded respect, filled arenas with thunder. 23 years of professional boxing, facing legends, earning respect through blood and skill. Now, he mopped floors where legends were born, invisible to fighters who'd have begged for his autograph a decade ago. Photo in his wallet, yellow-edged and precious. Him versus Tommy Morrison, gloves raised in victory, crowd roaring like a freight train. 12 brutal rounds of pure violence and skill. The night he'd proven he belonged with boxing's elite. Madison Square Garden, 18,000 screaming fans, his trainer embracing him as the final bell rang. The satisfaction of a man at absolute peak of his powers. Now he cleaned their sweat off heavy bags. The irony. Catherine texted from Seattle, cheerful updates about her law firm promotion, her son's Little League games. She believed her father lived comfortably in retirement, drawing pension from security consulting work. Martin never corrected her assumptions. Let her keep believing Daddy was enjoying golden years with dignity intact. The truth was minimum wage and arthritis that bit like winter wind. The truth was swallowing pride daily while kids like Tyler treated him like furniture. The truth was lying awake in his cramped studio apartment, staring at ceiling tiles and wondering how he'd fallen so far. But some nights, alone with that yellowed photograph, Martin remembered what it felt like to be dangerous. Now the skills that never die. But muscle memory was unforgiving. When Martin moved around heavy bags, his footwork still followed patterns drilled through thousands of training sessions. Orthodox stance, 45-degree angles, weight on balls of feet. When organizing gloves, his hands automatically assessed weight and balance with professional precision. 14-ounce sparring gloves versus 10-ounce competition leather. He could tell the difference blindfolded. When conversations turned to technique, his strategic mind analyzed matchups and predicted outcomes with accuracy that came from living the game from inside. He'd see young fighters throwing combinations and instantly spot their tells, their weaknesses, their potential. The sport had moved on without him, as sports always did. New champions rose while old ones faded into memory or minimum wage obscurity. But the fighter never left. Tyler's mistake. Martin studied Tyler like he'd studied opponents for 23 years. Reading tells, cataloging weaknesses, building strategy. Tyler was talented but unrefined, strong but predictable, confident but careless. His jabs telegraphed from downtown, shoulder dipping before every throw. His footwork was textbook but rigid, no improvisation under pressure. He relied on power over precision, intimidation over technique. The kid threw punches from too far away, telegraphed intentions with obvious shoulder movement, depended on size and youth instead of skill. Classic amateur mistakes that would get him hurt against real competition. Against untrained opponents, these flaws didn't matter. Against someone with Martin's experience, they were neon signs screaming, "Amateur." The psychology. Tyler saw an elderly black janitor and assumed weakness. Classic mistake. He'd built his confidence on beating lesser opponents, never facing someone who'd survived real wars. Martin understood the psychology perfectly. Young men needed to establish dominance. Picking on apparent defensiveness was easiest path to perceived strength. But Tyler had no idea he was tormenting someone who'd once shared rings with legends, someone whose name belonged in boxing history books, someone who'd learned to channel violence into art through decades of professional combat. The irony was suffocating. Tyler was performing for audiences who had no idea they were watching a master being disrespected by a student who didn't even know school was in session. The preparation. The 30-minute delay gave Martin time to access dormant parts of himself. His breathing shifted into pre-fight rhythm. Slow, deep, centering. The pattern that had carried him through championship battles. His mind began familiar opponent analysis, Tyler's preferred combinations, jab, cross, hook. His range, exactly 74 inches. His timing, rushed when angry, sloppy when showing off. Every habit, every weakness, every opportunity for exploitation. Martin's strategic brain, dormant for 3 years, roared back to life. He cataloged Tyler's tells like a computer processing data. The shoulder twitch before jabs, the weight shift before hooks, the ego that made him predictable under pressure. The awakening. As Martin worked, his body unconsciously shifted into old patterns. Stance while mopping became balanced base he'd used against Morrison. Breathing followed controlled rhythm that had sustained him through 12-round wars. His eyes tracked fighter movement with predatory awareness of someone who'd made living reading opponents' intentions. Where others saw random training, Martin saw telegraphed techniques and exposed defenses. Eddie Thompson noticed these changes because he'd witnessed them before, in fighters preparing for battle. The way Martin's shoulders squared when he thought nobody watched. The precision of footwork as he navigated equipment. The controlled aggression that spoke of decades channeling violence into art. "I know that style," Eddie muttered, memories stirring of fights he'd attended decades ago. "I know that movement." Recognition flickered at the edge of Eddie's consciousness, but he couldn't quite place it. Something about Martin's fluid motion, his perfect balance, the way he carried himself like coiled steel. The revelation building. Martin finished cleaning with methodical precision, but everything had changed beneath surface. The janitor's mask was slipping, revealing glimpses of someone far more dangerous. Tyler continued his elaborate show, building confidence through intimidation. But he was performing for audience, missing subtle shifts in his opponent's energy. The gym buzzed with anticipation, but nobody understood what they were really about to witness. They expected a mismatch. They had no idea they were about to see a masterclass. The final assessment. Tyler's flaws screamed amateur to Martin's trained eye, telegraphed jabs, ego bigger than his guard, shoulders that broadcasted every intention, footwork that crumbled under real pressure. The kid had talent but no wisdom, strength but no patience. Confidence but no humility, perfect recipe for a hard lesson. Martin exhaled slow, accessing 40 years of championship experience. Time to remind the kid, legends don't fade quiet. They just wait for the right moment to roar. The 30 minutes crawled by like hours, but finally Tyler Brooks stepped into the center arena, skin glistening with sweat from warm-up designed more for intimidation than preparation. His muscles were pumped, confidence radiating through every calculated movement. The audience had nearly doubled. Word spread through texts, social media posts, urgent phone calls, drawing fighters from other gyms, curious onlookers from the street, anyone hungry for authentic drama that social media algorithms devoured. Phones positioned at every angle, live streams broadcasting to hundreds of viewers, energy crackling with anticipation. Tyler's jabs popped like firecrackers, sweat flying with each sharp combination. His footwork echoed against concrete, tap, shuffle, tap, displaying technical precision of 15 years dedicated training. "Look at this hand speed!" Tyler called out, throwing rapid-fire combinations that whistled through air like freight trains. 82 inches of hurt, Pops! This is professional training versus whatever you call mopping floors. He gestured dismissively toward Martin, who stood quietly at circle's edge, still wearing work clothes, looking every bit the part of maintenance worker who'd stumbled into something beyond his capabilities. But Eddie Thompson's trained eye caught details others missed. When Martin stepped into center space, his walk had transformed. The shuffle of elderly maintenance worker replaced by something fluid, purposeful, predatory. "Ladies and gentlemen," Tyler announced with theatrical flair. "Thank you for your patience. Time to settle some unfinished business." The crowd fell silent as Martin walked slowly toward his position, cleaning supplies forgotten, usual invisibility replaced by presence that commanded attention despite shabby work shirt and worn shoes. Tyler's pre-fight ritual was pure theater now, shoulders rolling like pistons, arms rotating in perfect circles, practice swings that cracked through air with professional precision, each movement designed to intimidate, to reinforce obvious physical advantages. "You see that reach?" Tyler asked, extending arms to full span. 82 inches of pure violence. "You see that speed?" His combination snapped through air, pop, 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 like gunshots. "This is what dedication looks like." Martin stood approximately 6 feet away, hands loose at sides, breathing slow and deep. His stance appeared casual, almost careless to most observers. But Martin's feet, rooted like an oak, eyes locked on Tyler's chest, reading the tell like a bad bluff. "Wait," Sarah Martinez whispered to her training partner, unease creeping into her voice. "Why is he standing like that?" Other observers began noticing what Sarah had seen. Martin's casual stance wasn't casual at all. His feet were positioned in classic boxing base, weight perfectly distributed, hands ready to react instantly to incoming threats. Tyler, focused on his performance for cameras, missed these subtle changes entirely. He was building his brand, creating content for social media consumption. The actual confrontation had become secondary to spectacle he was orchestrating. "Something's not right here," Jake murmured to Danny, studying Martin's positioning with growing unease. "Look at his eyes. That's not fear." Danny squinted across circle at Martin's face. Where they expected anxiety or resignation, they found something else entirely. Focused calm of someone entering familiar territory, someone who understood exactly what was about to happen. The crowd's energy shifted as people processed what they were observing. Initial excitement gave way to uncertainty as they realized this wasn't unfolding like typical bullying scenario. Martin's composure was unsettling, his readiness somehow threatening despite apparent disadvantages. Amanda continued recording, but her expression had changed from excitement to confusion. Her followers were commenting rapidly, many asking questions about the old man's strange confidence, others demanding Tyler hurry up and finish what he'd started. "You know what?" Tyler announced, his voice slightly forced as he noticed the changed atmosphere. "Enough talk. Time for action." He moved closer to Martin, entering striking range with theatrical confidence. The space between them compressed to less than 4 feet, close enough for Tyler to land his promised punch, close enough for crowd to see every detail of what was about to happen. Martin's breathing remained steady, but his body made another almost invisible adjustment. His chin tucked slightly, eyes focused on Tyler's chest rather than his face, detail that would have meant nothing to most observers, but everything to someone who understood boxing fundamentals. Eddie Thompson's eyes widened as decades of experience suddenly clicked into place. "Jesus Christ," he whispered to himself, recognition dawning like sunrise. That's Iron Martin Irving. But his recognition came too late to change anything. The confrontation had gained too much momentum, drawn too large an audience, created too much anticipation to stop now. Tyler continued building drama, explaining his superior training, his professional record, his obvious physical advantages. He made jokes about Martin's age and questioned whether the older man's reflexes were quick enough to avoid serious injury. "My jab clocks 43 miles per hour on the speed gun," Tyler bragged, throwing demonstration punches that whistled past Martin's head. "That's faster than most people can blink." Throughout the verbal assault, Martin remained motionless except for his breathing. In, out, rhythm of someone who'd learned to control heart rate under extreme pressure. His eyes never left Tyler's torso, reading micro-movements with skill of someone who'd made living predicting opponents' intentions. The gym's acoustic environment had changed completely. Normal training sounds, heavy bags thumping, speed bags rattling, weights clanking, had been replaced by electric silence, punctuated only by Tyler's voice and the soft whir of phone cameras. "Last chance, old man," Tyler said, cocking his right hand back in obvious preparation for straight punch. "Apologize now or get knocked down in front of everyone." The crowd held its breath. Phones captured every angle. Live streams broadcast the moment to growing online audiences. The tension had become suffocating as everyone waited for inevitable conclusion. Martin's response was barely audible but carried clearly in sudden silence. "Real strength is knowing when you don't need to prove it." The words hit Tyler like physical blow. For the first time all evening, his confidence wavered slightly. There was something in Martin's tone, not defiance, but certainty, that didn't match the script Tyler had written for this encounter. "What did you say?" Tyler demanded, his voice rising with sudden anger at being challenged. "I said real strength is knowing when you don't need to prove it," Martin repeated, voice calm and clear as church bells. "But some lessons can only be learned the hard way." The gym fell completely silent. Even ambient noise seemed to disappear as everyone focused on two men facing each other in center of circle. This was it, moment everyone had been waiting for. Climax that would determine who was right about respect, age, and natural order of things. Tyler's face flushed with rage at implied criticism. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. The old man was supposed to be scared, apologetic, defeated before first punch was thrown. Instead, he was standing there like he belonged, like he knew something Tyler didn't. The air itself seemed to thicken with tension. Sweat dripped onto concrete with tiny splashing sounds. Someone's phone buzzed with incoming message, harsh electronic intrusion that made everyone jump. Tyler's breathing had become audible, harsh and rapid compared to Martin's controlled rhythm. His muscles were tense, coiled, ready to explode into violent action. "You want to learn something the hard way?" Tyler snarled, pulling his right hand back to full extension like cocking a pistol. Martin's stance shifted one final time, so subtly that only Eddie Thompson caught the movement. 40 years of professional boxing experience crystallized into perfect defensive positioning as Martin prepared to demonstrate difference between youthful aggression and mature skill. Tyler cocked back, rage boiling over like lava from an active volcano. "Lesson time." Martin's whisper cut through air like a blade through silk. Real strength, knowing when to duck. The moment of truth had arrived. Tyler threw his punch with all power and speed he could muster, his entire reputation riding on connecting with this one devastating blow. The punch flew, and the world shifted. Tyler's punch came like a freight train, fast, brutal, devastating. 15 years of training condensed into one explosive right hand aimed directly at Martin's weathered face, his full body weight committed behind the blow, technique flawless, power that could drop a heavyweight. The punch whistled through air with lethal precision. Tyler's form was textbook perfect. Hip rotation generating maximum torque, shoulder driving through target. This was the knockout blow that would end everything. But Martin wasn't there when the punch arrived. The movement was liquid poetry, so fluid it seemed supernatural to stunned observers. Martin's upper body swayed exactly the right distance left, Tyler's fist cutting through empty air where his head had been a split second before. No wasted motion, no unnecessary drama. Just perfect economy of movement that spoke of thousands of hours in professional rings. "Holy shit!" someone breathed. Tyler's momentum became his enemy. The tremendous force he'd put behind the missed punch carried him forward, balance completely destroyed, his feet tangled as physics took over, body twisting awkwardly as he careened toward concrete floor with nothing to break his fall except Martin's hands. Instead of stepping aside to watch Tyler crash in humiliation, Martin caught him. His weathered hands gripped Tyler's shoulders with surprising strength, steadying the younger man and preventing painful collision with unforgiving concrete. The entire sequence lasted less than 2 heartbeats, but implications rippled through crowd like seismic shockwave. This wasn't just evasion, this was mastery. This was the difference between someone who'd learned to fight and someone who'd lived to fight. "That was," Sarah Martinez whispered, voice filled with awe, "that was beautiful." Tyler stood frozen in Martin's grip, face inches from the older man's calm, steady eyes. For the first time all evening, Tyler was speechless. The punch that should have ended everything had been neutralized so completely, it seemed like he'd never thrown it at all. The crowd remained locked in stunned silence, phones still recording but operators too shocked to process what they'd witnessed. This wasn't the brutal knockout they'd expected. This was something entirely different, something that challenged every assumption they'd brought to the confrontation. Amanda's live stream exploded with comments. How did he do that? Replay that dodge! Who is this old man? Eddie Thompson stepped forward, his voice carrying authority of decades spent in boxing gyms worldwide. I know that style. I know that movement. His weathered face filled with recognition. Jesus Christ, you're Iron Martin Irving. The name hit the assembled crowd like lightning. Iron Martin Irving, regional heavyweight champion for 3 consecutive years. The fighter who'd gone 12 brutal rounds with Tommy Morrison and emerged victorious. The boxer who'd been mentioned in same conversations as sports elite. Martin gently released Tyler's shoulders, stepping back with same measured calm he'd maintained throughout entire confrontation. His breathing remained steady, composure unbroken, dignity not just intact but enhanced. You're him, Eddie continued, voice filled with respect due to living legend. Iron Martin Irving. I saw you fight at Madison Square Garden in '94. The gym's energy shifted completely. Where there had been anticipation for Tyler's dominance, there was now stunned recognition of what they'd actually witnessed. This wasn't young athlete bullying elderly janitor. This was master craftsman demonstrating why skill and experience trumped youth and aggression. Tyler's face cycled through confusion, disbelief, and dawning comprehension as reality crashed over him. He'd challenged a professional boxer, a champion, a legend. Martin straightened to his full height, years seeming to fall away from his shoulders. His posture radiated quiet confidence of someone who'd never truly been broken. Now, Martin said quietly, his voice carrying easily across silent gym, I believe someone made a promise about apologizing. Tyler's punch came like a freight train, fast, brutal, devastating. 15 years of training condensed into one explosive right hand aimed directly at Martin's weathered face. His full body weight committed behind the blow, technique flawless, power that could drop a heavyweight. The punch whistled through air with lethal precision. Tyler's form was textbook perfect, hip rotation generating maximum torque, shoulder driving through target. This was the knockout blow that would end everything. But Martin wasn't there when the punch arrived. The movement was liquid poetry, so fluid it seemed supernatural to stunned observers. Martin's upper body swayed exactly the right distance left. Tyler's fist cutting through empty air where his head had been a split second before. No wasted motion, no unnecessary drama, just perfect economy of movement that spoke of thousands of hours in professional rings. Holy shit, someone breathed. Tyler's momentum became his enemy. The tremendous force he'd put behind the missed punch carried him forward, balance completely destroyed. His feet tangled as physics took over, body twisting awkwardly as he careened toward concrete floor with nothing to break his fall except Martin's hands. Instead of stepping aside to watch Tyler crash in humiliation, Martin caught him. His weathered hands gripped Tyler's shoulders with surprising strength, steadying the younger man and preventing painful collision with unforgiving concrete. The entire sequence lasted less than 2 heartbeats, but implications rippled through crowd like seismic shockwave. This wasn't just evasion, this was mastery. This was the difference between someone who'd learned to fight and someone who'd lived to fight. That was... Sarah Martinez whispered, voice filled with awe. That was beautiful. Tyler stood frozen in Martin's grip, face inches from the older man's calm, steady eyes. For the first time all evening, Tyler was speechless. The punch that should have ended everything had been neutralized so completely it seemed like he'd never thrown it at all. The crowd remained locked in stunned silence, phones still recording but operators too shocked to process what they'd witnessed. This wasn't the brutal knockout they'd expected. This was something entirely different, something that challenged every assumption they'd brought to the confrontation. Amanda's live stream exploded with comments. How did he do that? Replay that dodge. That. Who is this old man? Eddie Thompson stepped forward, his voice carrying authority of decades spent in boxing gyms worldwide. I know that style. I know that movement. His weathered face filled with recognition. Jesus Christ, you're Iron Martin Irving. The name hit the assembled crowd like lightning. Iron Martin Irving, regional heavyweight champion for 3 consecutive years. The fighter who'd gone 12 brutal rounds with Tommy Morrison and emerged victorious. The boxer who'd been mentioned in same conversations as sports elite. Martin gently released Tyler's shoulders, stepping back with same measured calm he'd maintained throughout entire confrontation. His breathing remained steady, composure unbroken, dignity not just intact, but enhanced. "You're him," Eddie continued, voice filled with respect due to living legend. "Iron Martin Irving. I saw you fight at Madison Square Garden in '94. The gym's energy shifted completely. Where there had been anticipation for Tyler's dominance, there was now stunned recognition of what they'd actually witnessed. This wasn't young athlete bullying elderly janitor. This was master craftsman demonstrating why skill and experience trumped youth and aggression. Tyler's face cycled through confusion, disbelief, and dawning comprehension as reality crashed over him. He'd challenged a professional boxer, a champion, a legend. Martin straightened to his full height, years seeming to fall away from his shoulders. His posture radiated quiet confidence of someone who'd never truly been broken. "Now," Martin said quietly, his voice carrying easily across silent gym, "I believe someone made a promise about apologizing." Tyler Brooks stood in the circle's center, the weight of his humiliation pressing down like concrete blocks. The punch that should have ended everything had been avoided so effortlessly it seemed like magic. The man he'd been tormenting, the invisible janitor he'd dismissed as worthless, was Iron Martin Irving, a legend whose name belonged in boxing history books. The realization hit in waves. Every snide comment, every deliberate obstacle, every moment of calculated cruelty had been directed at someone who could have destroyed him without breaking a sweat. Tyler started, his voice failing as he struggled to process the magnitude of his mistake. Amanda's live stream had exploded into chaos. Comments flooded faster than she could read. Boxing fans recognizing Martin's name. People sharing fight videos. Others demanding Tyler fulfill his promise immediately. "You made a deal," Eddie Thompson said firmly, newfound respect for Martin evident in every word. "A man's word is his bond, especially when that man just got schooled by a master." Tyler looked around the circle of faces. Gym members who'd witnessed months of cruel behavior, strangers who'd expected to see him dominate an old man, friends who now saw him clearly for the first time. Tyler hesitated, knees shaking, pride dying hard. His whole identity had been built on dominance, on being the alpha predator in every room. Getting on his knees meant admitting everything he'd believed about himself was wrong. "Come on, kid," Martin said quietly, his voice carrying unexpected gentleness. "We all fall. Champions get back up swinging right." Slowly, deliberately, Tyler dropped to his knees. "I'm sorry," he said, voice barely audible at first, then louder, facing Martin directly. "I'm sorry, Martin. I was completely wrong about everything." Martin stepped forward, offering his weathered hand. The gesture was simple but profound. Dignity extended even to someone who'd shown him none. Tyler accepted the help, rising with Martin's assistance. When they stood face to face, the physical differences seemed less important than they had minutes before. "I thought because you were cleaning floors, because you didn't fight back, that meant you were weak," Tyler continued, his confession gathering authenticity. "But I was the weak one. I needed to put someone down to feel big." The crowd absorbed the lesson in uncomfortable silence. Many faces showed shame as people recognized their own complicity, their own failure to speak up when they witnessed systematic injustice. Frank Wilson pushed through the crowd, business instincts warring with conscience. "Martin, I had no idea who you were. The head trainer position, full salary, benefits, the respect you should have had." Martin waved him off with a slight smile. "I clean wins, Frank, but no more dirt from your golden boy." Frank's face reddened, but he nodded. "Anyone who has a problem with that can find another gym." Tyler stepped forward again, transformation evident in his posture. The arrogance had been replaced by something rawer, more honest. "Martin, I know sorry isn't enough, but I want to learn from you, not just boxing, how to be a man who treats people right." Martin studied Tyler's face, reading sincerity where arrogance had dominated. "Some lessons can only be learned the hard way, but you're willing to learn. That means there's hope." The crowd began dispersing, but the gym's energy had been fundamentally transformed. Conversations buzzed with recognition of what they'd witnessed, not just masterful boxing skill, but a lesson in character that would be remembered long after videos stopped circulating. Eddie Thompson approached Martin with obvious reverence. "Iron Martin Irving, do you know how many young fighters would give anything to train with someone of your caliber?" Martin's smile was genuine. "Maybe that's worth considering. Teaching can be its own kind of fighting." Amanda stopped recording, approaching tentatively. "Martin, I can delete the video if you want. This got way out of hand." "Keep it," Martin replied thoughtfully. "But maybe use it to teach people something worthwhile. Real strength isn't about knocking someone down. It's about helping them get back up." As weeks passed, Tyler found himself working alongside Martin, asking quiet questions about technique and life philosophy. The mentorship became foundation of Tyler's complete transformation from arrogant bully to respected fighter and decent human being. Martin returned to his cleaning duties, but everything had changed forever. He was no longer invisible, no longer dismissed. More importantly, he'd rediscovered the satisfaction of using his skills not to hurt someone, but to teach them something valuable about themselves. The video blew up, not for the dodge, but the grace. Tyler trained under Martin now, fists humble. Former enemies became teacher and student, pride replaced by purpose. "Respect ain't a title you win," Martin said during one of their training sessions, his words carrying the weight of hard-won wisdom. "It's choosing not to swing when you could KO the world." The gym had found its center again. Fighters trained with renewed focus, understanding that true strength came from character, not just physical power. The culture had shifted from predatory to protective, from individual glory to collective growth. Tyler never forgot the lesson. Years later, when he faced his own moments of choice, when he could have used his power to diminish others, he remembered an elderly janitor who'd taught him that the strongest thing you can do is help someone become better than they were. Fade out on the gym, quiet, but unbreakable. Where legends are made not just through victory, but through grace under fire.